This is a story I heard from an old man named Mohi in my village when I was little. Long ago, there was a place called Nakayama near our village, and there was a small castle there. A lord named Nakayama-sama lived there. A little way from Nakayama, in the mountains, there was a fox named Gon. Gon was a lonely little fox who lived in a hole he had dug in a forest thick with ferns. Gon would go out into the village day and night, causing all sorts of trouble. He would dig up potatoes in the fields, set fire to dried sesame pods, and pick chili peppers hanging behind farmers' houses. He did all sorts of mischief. One autumn day, after it had rained for 2 or 3 days straight, Gon emerged from his hole, feeling relieved. The sky was clear, and the sound of a shrike echoed through the air. Gon came to the bank of a small stream in the village. Raindrops still glistened on the pampas grass. The stream was usually dry, but 3 days of rain had caused the water level to rise. Pampas grass and bush clover that normally stood above the water were now being swept away by the muddy water. Gon walked down the muddy path toward the lower part of the stream. Suddenly, he saw someone in the river doing something. Gon hid in the grass so he wouldn't be seen and watched what was going on. Gon thought, "That's Hyuju." Hyuju had rolled up his tattered black kimono and was waist deep in the water, shaking a harikiriki net to catch fish. He had a headband on his face, and a haji leaf was stuck to the side of his cheek. After a while, Hyuju pulled the bag-shaped part of the harikiriki net out of the water. It was filled with grass roots, leaves, and rotten wood, but there were also white, shiny objects here and there. They were the bellies of fat eels and large sea bream. Hyuju threw them into a fish basket along with the debris and submerged the net in the water again. Hyuju carried the fish basket out of the river, placed it on the riverbank, and ran upstream in search of something. Once Hyuju was gone, Gon jumped out of the grass and ran to the fish basket. He felt like playing a prank. Gon took the fish out of the basket and threw them one after another into the downstream part of the river where the net was set. The fish made a plop sound as they sank into the murky water. Gon tried to grab a thick eel, but it slipped out of his hands. Gon got angry, stuck his head into the fish basket, and bit the eel with his mouth. The eel squeaked and wrapped itself around Gon's neck. At that moment, Hoju shouted from across the river, "Thief!" Gon jumped up in surprise, tried to shake off the eel, and flee, but the eel remained wrapped around his neck. Gon fled desperately. When he reached the hazel tree near the hole, he turned around. However, Hyuju was not chasing him. Gon sighed in relief, bit off the eel's head, and finally removed it, placing it on a leaf. 10 days later, Gon passed by the back of a farmer's house named Yasuke. In the shade of Yasuke's fig tree, Yasuke's wife was dyeing her teeth black. Next, he passed by the back of the house of Shinbi, the carpenter, and saw Shinbi's wife combing her hair. Gon thought, "Is there some kind of event in the village?" Gon wondered, "Is it the autumn festival? But I don't hear the sound of drums or flutes, and there are no flags at the shrine." As Gon was thinking about this, he found himself in front of Hyuju's house. Hyuju's house was a small, old house with a red well. There were many people gathered inside the house. Women dressed in their best kimonos were stoking the fire in the hearth. Something was boiling in a large pot. Gon thought, "It's a funeral. Someone in Hyuju's family has died." After noon, Gon went to the village cemetery and hid behind the 6 Jizo statues. The sky was clear, and the roof tiles of the castle glistened in the sunlight. Eigan flowers bloomed like red cloth across the cemetery. After a while, the sound of bells ringing, "Kon, kon," came from the village. It was the signal that the funeral had begun. A procession of people dressed in white approached the cemetery. After they passed by, the Heigan flowers were trampled underfoot. Gon stretched his neck to look. Yuju was wearing white paper robes and carrying a memorial tablet. His usually lively red face looked pale today. Bon thought, it must be Hyuju's mother who died. Bon pulled his head back. That night, Gon lay in the hole and thought. Hyuju's mother must have been lying in bed and wanted to eat eel. That's why Hyuju went to get a net. But I played a trick and took the eel. Hyuju couldn't give the eel to his mother. She died without eating it. She must have died thinking about how much she wanted to eat eel. I shouldn't have done that. Hyuju was washing wheat by the red well. Hyuju had been living in poverty with his mother. After his mother died, Hyuju was left alone. Bon watched from behind the storage shed and thought, he's alone just like me. Bon left the storage shed and started walking down the road. Then he heard someone calling, "Sardines for sale! Fresh sardines!" Bon ran toward the voice. There, Yadiro's wife peeked out from the back door and said, "Give me 2 sardines." The sardine seller placed a basket on the side of the road, grabbed the shiny sardines with both hands, and carried them to Yadiro's house. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Gon pulled 5 or 6 sardines from the basket and ran back to Hyuju's house. He threw the sardines through the back door. Looking back up the hill, he saw Hyuju still washing wheat by the well. Gon thought, this is a good deeds to making up for the eel. The next day, Gon picked up a lot of chestnuts in the mountains and carried them to Hyuju's house. Peeking through the back door, he saw Hyuju eating lunch, holding a bowl and looking dazed. There was a scratch on Hyuju's cheek. Gon thought, what happened? Hyuju muttered to himself. Who on earth threw sardines into my house? Because of that, I was mistaken for a thief and beaten by the sardine seller. Gon thought, oh no. Hyuju had been beaten by the sardine seller and injured. Gon went around to the storage shed, placed the chestnuts at the entrance, and returned home. The next day and the day after that, Gon picked up chestnuts and took them to Hyuju's house. The day after that, he brought not only chestnuts but also 2 or 3 matsutake mushrooms. One moonlit night, Gon went out for a stroll. He passed by the castle of Nakigama-sama and walked for a while. Then, he saw someone coming from the other side of a narrow path. He heard voices. The sound of crickets chirping, Chinchiro Rin, could be heard. Gon hid beside the path and stayed still. The voices grew closer. The ones talking were Hyuju and Kasuki, 2 peasants. Hyuju said, "Hey, Kasuki, something strange has been happening lately." Kasuki asked, "What is it?" Hyuju continued, "Ever since my mother died, someone I don't know has been leaving chestnuts and matsutake mushrooms every day." Kasuki said, "Really? Who could it be?" Hyuju answered, "I don't know. They leave them there without me noticing." Gon followed the 2 men. Kasuki asked, "Is that true?" Hyuju said, "It's true. If you don't believe me, come see for yourself tomorrow. I'll show you the chestnuts." The 2 continued walking in silence. Kasuki suddenly looked back. Gon was startled and stopped, shrinking back, but Kasuki didn't notice him and kept walking. The 2 entered the house of a farmer named Yoshib. The sound of a wooden fish drum echoed, and the shadow of a large bald monk moved behind the sliding door. Gon thought, they're reciting sutras. Gon crouched down by the well. After a while, 3 more people entered Yoshib's house. The sound of sutras being recited could be heard. Gon stayed crouched by the well until the chanting ended. Eventually, Hyuju and Kasuki came out of the house together. Gon quietly followed them, trying to hear their conversation. Gon walked stealthily, following Hyuju's shadow. When they reached the castle, Kasuki said, "About what we were talking about earlier, that was definitely the work of the gods." Hyuju looked at Kasuki in surprise. "What?" Asuki said, I've been thinking about it all along, but that wasn't a human. It was the gods. Gods felt sorry for you being alone, so they blessed you with chestnuts and matsutake mushrooms. Yuju nodded. I guess so. Asuki said, that's for sure. So you have to thank the gods every day. Gon thought, that's boring. I'm the one who brought the chestnuts and matsutake mushrooms, yet he's thanking the gods? I don't get anything in return. The next day, Gon picked up some chestnuts and took them to Hyuju's house. Hyuju was tying ropes in the shed. Gon quietly entered the house through the back door. At that moment, Hyuju looked up and saw a fox entering the house. Hyuju thought, that's Gon the fox who stole the eel the other day. He's come to cause trouble again. He stood up, grabbed the matchlock gun hanging in the barn, loaded it with gunpowder, crept up quietly, and just as Gon was about to step out the door, he fired. Gon collapsed with a thud. Hyuju rushed over. Looking inside the house, he saw the chestnuts neatly piled on the earthen floor. Hyuju was surprised. Oh, no. He looked down at Gon. Gon, was it you? You were the one who always gave me chestnuts. Gon lay motionless, his eyes closed, but nodded. Hyuju dropped the matchlock gun with a thud. A thin blue smoke still rose from the muzzle.